We had the Education Foundation Superintendent Circle of Giving, and that was a very nice event. And I always enjoy hearing the speaker, the students, and the teacher. And she was really fabulous from the Buinger Center. So that was a fun event this week. That was good.
All right, as Ms. Cole said, we just had graduation that ramped up what I call banquet season. Yeah. So we've all, as a board, attended a lot of things over the last couple months. So I want to thank the board and thank everyone who's involved in putting those events together, because I know it's a lot of work. All right. Dr. Harrington, any comments?
No additional comments.
Okay, any clarifications required?
None at this time.
All right, we're ready for open forum number 1. No cards. And at this time, the board will adjourn to closed session. Pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, the board will adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.076.
Okay, can you hear that one?
Well, it's not, it's gonna over here. Yeah, for Becky's on there,
Okay. So this one works.
but you can't hear it very good. You can barely hear his.
Yeah.
I can hear it when they're talking, it sounds like Can you hear me on this one?
Test, test, test.
Can you hear me? Yeah, from here around.
Turn this one off. Okay, so
At this time, the board will reconvene into open session. Well, sorry, I didn't see that we were missing a couple people. All right. Item 8.01, consider approval of Midway Park Elementary principal. I will accept the motion.
I move the board approve Jessica Austin as the principal of Midway Park Elementary School.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve Jessica Austin as the principal of Midway Park Elementary School. Please vote. And that motion passes. All right, Jess, whenever we vote on a new principal, we always like to give you an opportunity to stand up and introduce whoever you have here with you tonight.
My husband, Andy, is here with me. I have my parents who came out to support me. My daughter-in-law and granddaughter are out. The toddler doesn't quite enjoy school board meetings, surprisingly. So I have two of my mentors here. My first principal for 18 years, Melissa Meadows. She actually is the one that I didn't even know that I wanted to go into administration. She kind of did a little maneuvering that put that out there. And then for the past year, Carrie Bartlett has been my principal and taught me things that I didn't even know I needed to learn. So I'm grateful to work with them.
All right, congratulations. All right, next we're item 9.01, budget workshop, and I believe that will be led by Mr. Jones.
All right. So for the budget workshop, we'll start with the current status for this year. Right now, we're looking at estimated revenue of $221 million, estimated expenditures of $239 million. So that's an estimated decrease to fund balance of about $18 million right now. So that $18 million is being made up first off by the $7.1 million that we came in better last year than we thought, that was transferred to the locally defined capital projects fund. $2 million of that was what we set aside for SROs, and we are down to just $9 million coming out of the local set aside funds. So that's down from the $19.5 million that we budgeted this year. And that's where we get to the $18 million. And that's at 9 right now. We expect that to come in even a little bit better than that at this point. We have a few more months of interest to gain, and then underspending on some budgets will probably come in closer to $5 million on that. In our locally defined capital project fund, we currently are sitting on an unallocated balance of $20 million. Some of the big projects we've done this year are the instrument replacements, box trucks, maintenance projects, and some replacement buses up in there. Okay, for our 25-26 budget, this is really preliminary right now as the governor just signed the bill last week to bring HB2 about. So some of these slides say if he signs it. He obviously did last week, so they did change since the slides were put together. So we'll start with the enrollment numbers. Currently, we came in this year at an enrollment of 23,262, slight gain over last year. Right now, we are estimating a loss of 100 students for next year, and that's what we're budgeting on as a loss. As you can see from the demographers' numbers, they're showing that we're going to continue decreasing over the next several years. So current law, which is no longer current law, we had a revenue budget planned of $214 million, almost $215 million, and then an expenditure budget of $239 million, which was going to have $24.8 million taken from the set-aside fund, and then a total change to fund balance of $0. So we'll start with those numbers for HB2, with $214 million in revenue, and then that $24 million from the set-aside. So from HB2, we are going to be gaining, based on legislative numbers, we haven't gotten any kind of modeling yet done on our part, about $12.1 million would be gained from that. So as you can see, that would bring us down on the set-aside fund to about 12.6 in a deficit. Then, of course, you get the other parts of HB2, the mandatory raises, which is $6.8 million out of that. Moves the set-aside fund up to $19.5 million. The one thing they didn't mention in those mandatory raises is they didn't cover benefits with it. So benefits, you're looking at about 10% benefits of almost $700,000 there as well. So we're looking at it from the set-aside fund, $20 million. This is just an improvement of $4.6 million over the previous law. So then we come to the possible of a VATRE. The golden pennies are the first 3 pennies that we're looking at if we'd go for that. We'd get a local gain of about $2 million per penny. The state would chip in another $1.7 million per penny on that for a total gain of $3.7 million per penny. And we can do up to 3 pennies on that for a total of $11.1 million. If you guys and voters choose to go any higher, we go into the copper pennies. You're still looking at a local gain of $2 million per penny. We lose a little bit of state revenue on that, and then we go into recapture as well for about $600,000. So per penny there, we only gain about $1.3 million. You can go up to 9 pennies on that, which would bring you up to $12 million there. And that's in addition to the 11.1. You could go up to the full 17 cents total on that, and it would get you an extra $23 million, which would completely close the deficit that we were talking about a minute ago. From a future outlook, if we take $20 million out of the set-aside fund, it leaves a remaining balance of just under $19 million in that fund. And then with enrollment projections showing declining enrollment, we look at a deficit budget in the following year in 26-27 of 2.7, completely drains that set-aside fund at that point and leaves us that deficit. And then 27-28, 28-29, if there's no additional legislative help, we'll be in full deficits at that point at $23 million and $24 million, coming down to about 3.32 months of operating at that point. Okay, any kind of questions?
So let me just share a couple pieces, because the question that everyone's getting right now are raises. So, we're on hold until we really see some tighter modeling. But like Stephen mentioned, the mandatory raises do not include all staff. And so
Put your microphone.
they're not working.
Oh.
The mics are, yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
Here's us.
Okay, sometimes, okay. Me and Matt, sometimes, Matt and I, sometimes it works. So we've got to complete the modeling on all of that because we've got the required raises for the teachers. There's a fund, a small fund that is set aside for the hourly workers. We have 4 groups completely left out. So we have administrators are completely left out, librarians, counselors, and nurses. And then teachers 0 through 3 years, or 0, 1, and 2, there is no funding for those groups either. So as we're looking to create raises, we're trying to see what the fund will allow. And like I said, as he mentioned, we have all those groups not included in that, and it's already down to $4 million. I'm just going to estimate that that's going to get cut in half. And again, so the amount to actually lower the deficit from HB2 is going to be very limited. And when from talking to other superintendents, the exact same boat. And it does seem that if they're any smaller than us, it's almost nothing left after they give raises. So we're we're going to work on this. It's going to be obviously later than normal. Usually this would be the meeting that would be approving raises, but we have got to have firm numbers before we can make that commitment. We've got to know exactly where we're at, but that's what we have. And as we get tighter and tighter, but from what I'm talking to the other superintendents, I think we're all in about the same boat. We do think there's a couple more models they've got to tighten up on, and then we should have some numbers, and we should be able to come to you with a proposal.
And what I've been told is even though you may not be able to hear them in the room, that the people online can hear it if we have the microphone on.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
all right. Any other questions on the budget workshop? All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right. We're to our consent items. Does any board member have a consent item they'd like removed from the consent agenda? Then I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Please vote. And that motion passes. All right, we're ready for reports and presentations. Item 11.01, report on employments, resignations, and retirements. Were there any questions on this report? 11.02, disbursements for the month of May 2025. Any questions? All right, item 11.03, preliminary state assessment 2025 results.
Okay, good evening. Tonight I will share the 2025 preliminary state assessment scores and highlight how HEB uses the results to support ongoing student growth across the district. As we move through these slides, I just want to talk to you about some of the trends you're going to see. 2023 was our baseline data for the STAR refresh. 2024, we see some dips, kind of systematic dips across certain subject areas and grade levels. And then in 2025, we're going to start seeing a rebound in some of the subject areas and grade levels. And then once I finish going over the data points, Holly's going to address specific actions being implemented in areas where we still see decreasing trends that are still being observed. So this presentation aligns with our strategic plan priority of student success and the goal of all students will achieve meets grade level or higher on the STAR test. So looking at our grade 3 trends, again, we have 3 years of data. So 2023 being that baseline, 2024 where we show dips in some of our areas, and then the rebound in 2025. So right here, we're looking at same grade level, same test over 3 years. And here it is in Spanish. In Spanish, with the numbers, just remember it's small number size of students that are taking that. So that's why the numbers look a little higher than with our English. And our grade 4 trends with reading and math. And here's where we're showing cohort data, and this is actually showing the same group of students over the 2 consecutive years of testing. And then our Spanish. And our grade 5 trends. grade 5 science. And then our cohort data for reading and math, this one is including that, now we have 3 years because we're at grade 5, so we have 3 years of that cohort data for that same group of students. And then our Spanish, reading and math, and our Spanish science. Then we'll look at grade 6 trends, again, reading and math. And then our cohort for those 3 tests with the same students. And then our grade 7 trends. And cohort. And then our grade 8 trends for reading and math. And our cohort, just note with and especially when we talk about Algebra 1, the math with grade 7, 8, and Algebra 1 can differ just because some of our students that are taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And so they would have a 7th grade math test versus an 8th grade, so that there's a little bit of an impact with those numbers. And then our year-to-year achievement data for science and social studies. And then we'll go to our EOCs with our English 1 performance, and then our cohort data. And then our English 2. And our cohort data from grade 8, English 1 to English 2. And then our algebra. And our cohort. And again, this is where that 8th grade algebra can come into play with some of those numbers because those kids would have had a 7th grade math test instead of the 8th grade. And then our biology. And our U.S. history. And then with state assessment, I also like to share the other tests that fall under state assessment. And so one of the results we've gotten back is TELPAS. On this next slide, you're not going to see the arrows of increases or decreases because how students acquire the English language differ depending on grade level and when they move in and everything. So it's really hard to actually have ups and downs because it all depends on where that student is in acquiring the English language, and it's a little bit of a different test than that of STAR. So here is our composite ratings over year-to-year data looking from the 3 years that we've had the refresh. And TELPAS and TELPAS Alt. Even though they weren't part of the refresh, these numbers help to drive how students are doing on STAR test, our EBs are doing on STAR. Okay, I'm now going to turn the rest of the presentation over to Holly.
All right, good evening. So I get to talk about what all is this data telling us? And I was watching you as you were watching the data. And I see things like maybe some eyebrows that go up or maybe some eyes that narrow, little of this, all of these things. Because really, when we first look at data, we feel like it's telling us something. Ooh, what is that telling me? I get a gut reaction maybe when you see some red or some green, etc. But really, the more important piece that I want to take you on a little journey with me is not just what it's telling us, but what questions does the data cause me to ask? Because it's not telling us a whole story. We're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. So this is, as Dr. Johnson would refer to it, a little bit of how the sausage gets made. I'm giving you a peek into how do we take this data and actually move from this point until we get to June of 2026. What all are we doing with this data and how does it impact our work? So if I'm looking for questions are coming to me as I look at this data. The questions I ask myself are going to depend on the role that I'm sitting in. So like my team, the curriculum coordinators, their first look at data is about curriculum. Is there something we've missed? Is there a gap in the curriculum? Is there a misalignment between the curriculum as we're delivering it and the assessment that they're being asked to produce results? So first looking at curriculum, and then if they find, well, I don't see the problem in curriculum, then they might look to, is there instruction? Is there a way that we're getting this curriculum off the paper and into the hands and minds of our students? Campus leaders kind of flip that. Their first look is typically on instruction. What does instruction look like in my building? If I have 2 fourth grade reading teachers and they got very different results using the same curriculum, how did instruction look in one room versus the other? But just as they might start with instruction, maybe they saw a dip with both of those reading teachers, and so then they start asking, well, is there something in the curriculum? You know, here's what they were teaching their hearts out and all the things that they were doing. So we've got 2 different perspectives, and they need to come together. We need to have those conversations, and that's really how our EdOps leaders are looking at how are we managing both sides of the system to make sure that it's not a, we see this, we see that. What do we all see together that we can move forward with action, and perhaps in different roles? The actions that curriculum will take versus the actions that principals take come together, but they're certainly not identical. So I'm not going back through all the slides. I just want to give you a peek inside my brain of some slides that generate questions for me. Honestly, they all generate questions, but I'm going to kind of put them in some categories for you. For example, this is 5th grade. This is that year-to-year achievements. These are different groups of students. But I see drops. Now, some of them are, you know, small, 1, 2 points. That is honestly a natural swing. But when I keep seeing them repeatedly, and so I see 2 years here of drops in 2 different subjects. So something in 5th grade we need to think about. There could be a different issue in reading and math, and they just happen to hit this simultaneously, but this gives me pause and generates a list of questions. I can't formulate these answers by myself. I have reading coordinator here, math coordinator looking at this. None of us can answer them completely by ourselves, but we all start thinking about the questions. But knowing that there's been this 2-year decline with different groups of 5th graders, well, what about the students that were currently sitting in 5th grade? Well, in math and in meets and masters of reading, they're doing better than they did as 4th graders. So that's a good thing. Okay, when we talk about growth, this is an oversimplification. If you really want to read all about the growth measures from TEA, you can find all of their metrics online. But we need students to at least be performing at the same level that they did the year before, because it's already on a year's more difficult curriculum, right? They've advanced a year, so they need to at least be holding their own, and really want to see even more so. So this is what I want to see. I want to see growth. That will then later translate through the official formula and into our accountability formula for growth, and that can be up to 70% of our accountability. So this is where we really want to see. So yes, something's happening in 5th grade, but for this group of students, they've improved, so that lends a whole nother set of questions. Then I can look at 7th grade. Well, this is an interesting scenario. Liz started off mentioning that we had kind of had a baseline year, then most areas went down last year and now rebounding. Secondary ELA, really last year, that was our one that was going up everywhere. 6th, 7th, 8th, English 1, English 2. We saw lots of green arrows for them last year when everybody else was red. Well, now I look at this and I see, so reading went up and then down, and math went down and then up. Okay, so again, more questions, things we're going to dig into to see what is happening with our students and how do we continue to see positive growth, both year-to-year trends and growth. Because I can look then at the cohort and I see different relationships. So even when the scores came up over last year's 7th graders, over their own performance in math, they were dipping. So you see how multi-layered this is and why I can't give you an answer for all of these questions tonight. I'm just helping you go on the journey with me to know these are the things we're exploring. And then in high school, English 2 is always an interesting creature. It's the first EOC that they take as high schoolers, since we have 3 taken in 9th grade for junior high, and what we see. And really, we've just been virtually stagnant at masters. What is it about? And we have asked that question for many, many years. We have yet to get that answer, but it doesn't stop us from asking the question each year. And are there any other pieces that can, that can help us answer that better? So in addition to looking at year to year and cohort, sometimes we're looking at this data program-wise. Science, you may recall, last year we came to you with a science adoption. We started new instructional materials this year. They had all new TEKs at all of their grade levels in science. So big things were happening in science, so we want to see, well, how did it go? So I can look at 5th grade, 8th grade, and biology, and that's telling me something about the science program. I actually see a lot of those even, we're holding our own. So, okay, the test changed. Honestly, it's going to change for science again next year, because this was an overlap of take where the old and the new intersected, and then next year will move us on to the new. So we need to be looking at science specifically, and where is there still room to grow, or are the things that we're struggling actually even still going to be on the test next year? Or things that we've been successful with, are they tested in a different way? So those are all things from a program perspective. And another program example I want to give you, because I was very excited to see this. In the previous legislative session, there was legislation about advanced math and that we need more opportunities to get more students to algebra in 8th grade. The mandate that went into effect this year from that legislative session was any student that on their 5th grade math star scored in the top 40% of all scores in the state, they were automatically to be placed in advanced math in 6th grade. Okay, and this was not an opt-in. This was you are mandatorily placed. We will place all of our students that are in the top 40% of scores in the state into advanced math, and a parent would need to opt them out. So really this push to let's get you in an advanced math track so we can get you geared up. So I said the top 40%. Historically, we have had about 1/3 of our 6th graders starting on the advanced math path. But remember, we score better than the state. So when you look at the top 40% of scores in the state, 55% of our 6th graders, incoming 6th graders that just finished this year, went into advanced math this year. So we went from about 33% of our students in advanced math to 55%, and we saw gains like this. We're pushing them to a higher level. But this is a program thing that I'm going to be watching 7th grade next year. So that's another way in which we're looking at how are the things that we know we've implemented in our curriculum with our instruction, how is that playing out in the scores? Is it going the way we thought it would? Are we having some pause or some redirection? So I said this starts our process. Our process is a PDSA. Of course it is. And we begin with our plan. So the data started telling us things, some red arrows jumped out at some of us, and from each of those different views I mentioned, we're starting to formulate what happens. Well, we have time set aside at Leadership Symposium for our campus and our district leaders to come together and have some of those conversations. Here's what we see from our side. What do you see happening? How do those pieces come together? And in fact, they will start working on their process of a root cause analysis. Not just here's a pattern I saw, why did that happen? And our 5 whys, we're just going to keep asking that. Why? Because, well, if that happened, then why did that happen? And continuing on, which lead us into our campus improvement plans and our department improvement plans, where our district and campus leaders are writing goals to address that root cause. And in fact, in October, we bring you improvement plans to approve. So that's all tied into this process. In addition, we have instructional improvement meetings. This is an opportunity for our campus leaders and our district content leaders to come to EdOps and a few of their colleagues, their corresponding partners, to look at, to present their own data. Here's what I'm going to be following with my campus this year. Here's what I'm following in my department this year. Some shared accountability and some ideas, and we group them according to what those goals are. So those are some really productive meetings. We've been doing that at the beginning of the year. We set the plan in motion. So we're done planning, it's time to do. Some of the things we're doing are district actions, which could be a response to something from the state. Here's new science materials. Oh, you're getting a new adoption in phonics. You know, we've got all kinds of things that are happening from the state. But also I mentioned curriculum coordinators looking at, I need to refine the curriculum. I need to refine the assessments that I'm giving along the way to be better aligned. So some of those actions are impacting the entire district. Also important to consider at district action is professional development, because if we're making some revisions or we're implementing revisions from the state, we need to be sure all of our teachers, all of our principals, everyone involved in this has the same understanding of that plan. Because if we've made a plan and when we're ready to do, we don't all do it the same way, we don't do the same thing, then it's going to be hard when we get our data to really trust our study. So whatever these new changes may be, there's going to be training to go along with it. Then at the campus level, are leading through exemplary practices that has been so effective at elementary and is rolling to junior high. Really excited to see the impact when they start talking, reflecting on their data in all those same ways that we've been seeing at elementary. That's a campus action. Of course, district is also supporting that, but that's really led there at the campus level. And then instructional rounds, you know, we've got to get into the classrooms and see, did the new curriculum, did the training that we went with it, what does it look like in action? Is it leading us where we need to be? So once we've planned and we've done, we need to study and act. And don't really separate these because we're not going to wait to act until the end of the year. As we're studying, we may be adjusting actions. One of the new things we are putting in place for 25-26 is an assessment calibration process, because some of what we are digging into and discovering with the test is we'll be looking and going, wow, they've never asked a question that way before. There's always been a picture that went with this kind of problem and now there's not. Or, oh, they used to only have to explain that one way, now they have to choose two. So we're constantly studying the assessment and the ways in which it's assessed and then going back to our curriculum, how do those match? So DBA is here much closer to the test. We give unit tests all along. We are starting our assessment calibration process with unit tests. If I have seen in data this year that I have a problem in geometry in 5th grade math, when we give that unit test, that whole test was geometry. Instead of just peeling off the geometry part of a DBA, I'm doing a deep dive. And so that will involve district leaders, campus leaders, and our EdOps leadership team in that assessment calibration process. The new tools that we're looking at, School City will be talking with you about this evening. That is going to be a great a great help in facilitating that process, the ways in which we can look at data, the ways we can share those conversations about data and studying trends over time and watching not just how it went on a DBA, but how did our other things move along. Then our improvement plans don't just sit at the beginning of the year and wait until the end of the year. We have formative reviews both in November and February where how are we doing? Is the data going the way that we thought it would? And those instructional improvement meetings, those groups come back together at mid-year to talk again with their colleagues with similar goals. Here's what's happening on my campus, what's happening on yours. It's going as I expected, I'm continuing on, or I'm making a plan and adjusting. Because by the time we get to the end of the year, now I have the summative data. We're going to have year-end reviews on those SIP and DIP plans and plan for learning. And in fact, one of the components they fill in is next year's recommendation. If I have planned and done some actions, studied them, my action for the following year needs to be to decide one of three things: adopt, adapt, or abandon. This was a great thing. It worked. I got the reading scores up that I wanted. I need to adopt that practice. It might not be in my plan next year because now I've figured out how to make it work. I just need to keep doing that. Maybe I need to abandon it. An example of we've tried something and it didn't work. Interim assessments. We did for 1 year. It is unusual in our district to say, we tried it, we didn't like it. You know, we're going to give things, you know, a study over time, but we knew from the preliminary data we have, and now we've got additional data with another year STAR and going back to our DBAs, that interims were not getting us what we needed. We didn't need to hold on and try it one more year. It was time to abandon. And frequently it's adapt. This worked. but maybe not to the extent I need it. I still need to leverage that a little more, as some of our principals are keen on saying there's some more meat left on that bone. What else can I do with that? Let's adapt it and continue it into the next year. And then we're wrapping up, this will be new in the 25-26 year, that we're actually going to bring our leaders back for end of year IIM so that they can walk us through this summative process. How did they close out their improvement plans for the year? Because, of course, as we get to the summative data of 2026, we're launching right back into a plan for 26, 27. Questions about the data or how we're using it?
Questions on this report?
So, Holly and Liz, first off, thank you for that latter part because you knocked out about 10 questions I had in that.
Oh, good.
A couple quick ones, though. How small is the elementary Spanish test? Because all of those scores were just double-digit, incredibly good.
But you'll also see some years with double-digit losses.
I was curious, I know you alluded to it being a small. How small is small?
Third grade is the largest of the groups. I don't know if we know the numbers exactly or if we would need to follow up with you. But
We just have the 3 campuses that do it, so, yeah, so I would say maybe 100 to 150.
Okay, so it's still pretty.
and as we move through 4th and 5th grade, though, students are exiting the bilingual program and they start testing in English.
Got it.
So we have fewer and fewer students left, and honestly, by 5th grade, the ones that are still testing in Spanish, frequently they're actually newcomers to us. They have not had enough time to be ready to transition to English, although they'll have to test in English in 6th grade. So with a smaller group, and also, just as Liz mentioned with TELPOS data, trying to look year to year, a language acquisition journey is so unique and individual that we do see big swings in those data. You may recall, too, when I present Lectura data, but sometimes on the Spanish side, we see much bigger swings than on the English side.
Hats off to the group because those numbers looked incredible, even if it is 100, 150. That's good. My second question is, you said that in 6th grade advanced math, parents have the option to opt out. Is that a big group that does that?
We had 0. They all left them in. We tried to, fully communicate. Here was our plan. I'm sorry, as of the end of the 5th 6 weeks, I can't imagine anybody opting out, and I didn't look again after that point. I figured we were pretty well settled. So they're all moving into the 7th grade advanced math, so we're looking at a big push as we get to. Now, the state is rolling out, starting new this year, there are now TEKS for the advanced math class, so we'll start implementing those this year. But we worked with what we had in our secondary math coordinator, did a great job launching that.
What other questions? So I know from 23 to 24, the STAR test changed a lot, right? So between 24 and 25, it's supposed to say essentially the same, but wasn't the exact same test, correct?
No, as we really dig in, and I will tell you, all of my coordinators do this. I have looked, because it was just shared with me this morning, most recently at math. We scoured the way in which questions get asked are different. Like I mentioned, suddenly there's no picture where there's always been. Yes, it's still a multiple choice item, or it's still a drag and drop item, but even the stimulus that's presented can be different, or things like it was an area problem, but before you were given length and width and you found the area. Now it's like, you have length and area and find perimeter. Yes, technically it's still the same TEKS, but that's why when we're moving through our assessment calibration, we're looking at content, context, and cognitive demand. We are trying our best to get in the mind of the STAR writers.
Yeah.
And every time we see a change, we adapt. We will see changes again.
Yeah, so I know, writing a test is never an exact science. There's always variations to it. So when we're looking at these, it's always really difficult to put too much just on the change of our own students year over year without seeing what our comparison districts are doing year over year, because that kind of gives you not only to see how we're doing against other districts, but also to see how the test may have affected from year to year. Because if every district went down in one subject or every district went up in one subject, then that points more to a change in the test than to a change in our
Yes,
teaching
we'll be
or
anxious
in
to
our
see
children's
that
ability.
data. I think,
So,
yes.
I'm sorry, so tomorrow, the EOCs are going to come out, so I'll have district comparisons. And then on the 17th will be the 3 through 8, so I'll share those in the Friday update, so you guys will have them all, okay?
I was just going to point out one other thing, that by moving to this unit assessment calibration, unit test calibration process, on a DBA, if I'm talking about geometry, I may only have 3 questions. But if I gave a whole unit test on just geometry, I can really think about how many ways should I ask this question on area. I don't know how it's going to be asked on STAR, but I have more opportunities to see, can they do it with a picture? Can they do it from, a graphic representation, et cetera? So that gives, the unit test will give us more opportunities to ask questions in more possible ways than on a DBA.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Dr. Norgard. 11.04, the 2024-2025 ESSA and TEHCY grant framework. Ms. Becker.
Good evening. I'm actually going to be sharing the 2025 and 2026 grant frameworks for the Every Student Succeeds Act consolidated grant application, as well, which we'll be submitting this summer, as well as the Texas Education for Homeless Children and Youth grant application, which we expect to open this fall. This information has been compiled with input from several stakeholder groups, including our District Level Improvement Committee, a couple of district parent advisory committees, instructional council, Title I campus principals, and members of our executive leadership team. So we're going to start, and I'm going to share a little bit about Title I with you. Overall, the general purpose of Title I is to increase student achievement at our 18 elementary Title I campuses. In the green call-out boxes on the slide, you can see what federal statute says is the intent and purpose of each of these grants. So I won't read it to you, but it is available. With Title I, we expect to have about $4 million available. So in May, TEA provides us with a planning amount. We then receive our initial allocation late August, early September, and then the final grant allocation for the school year in March. So there may be a little bit of variance, but we're planning on around $4 million, and that does include $50,000 that we're going to redirect from Title II Part A into Title I. So we've had an increase this year in Title II Part A and looking to move that into Title I Part A to support the initiatives that we have. So Title I is unique because a portion of that goes to support our Title I campuses, and then another portion supports the district required reservations. So about 80% of the $4 million will go directly to the Title I campuses, and of that 80%, 97% supporting campus payroll, and the remainder of that campus allocation supporting family engagement activities, instructional materials, and professional learning for our campus staff. Of the remaining 20% of the $4 million, about 65% of that goes to the district reservation for district payroll. And you're going to see on a few of the ESSA grants, Title I, Title II, and Title IV, a small portion is reserved for private nonprofit campuses, and that is a requirement under ESSA, is that equitable services are provided to private nonprofit campuses. That ranges anywhere from $140 to about 1.5% of the grant, depending on the grant and what that campus is eligible for. The remainder supporting several different required reservations. You can see the breakdown. And then although LASSO is not part of the ESSA grant cycle, it is a type of Title I fund, so I've included it in here. We were awarded the LASSO Instructional Leadership Grant this past March for $43,000, and it's a very specialized grant to provide targeted support for Bel Air elementary special education programs from an approved provider. The purpose is to strengthen educational leadership and observation feedback and data-driven instruction. And so based on the intent and purpose of this grant, we're proposing to spend $90,000 to contracted services and then the remainder for supplemental duty pay, miscellaneous training fees, and indirect cost. As we transition back to ESSA, Title II Part A is about professional development and how we grow our teachers. Title II Part A excludes the $50,000 we redirected to Title I, so we have about $682,000, 92% supporting district payroll, and then you can see on the right-hand side the remainder. You'll see multiple positions with an asterisk indicated those positions are split funded by multiple fund sources. And the breakdown of Title II's planning budget. Title III Part A has two components. The first one we're going to look at is English language acquisition, or resources for our emergent bilingual students. We have just over $500,000 available this year in Title III Part A for emergent bilingual students. This is an increased allocation than what we've had before, and about 90% of this funding going to payroll. The remainder, a large portion of that, is supporting supplemental summer school programs for Title III and emergent bilingual students. Here's the planning budget for Title III Part A ELA expenses. And then we have an allocation for Title III immigrant funds. The planning budget is just over $86,000, again about 90% going to payroll, and the remaining supporting materials and supplies and professional development. And the last part of the ESSA Consolidated Grant application is Title IV Part A, which supports multiple programs: a well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and digital literacy through technology use. In Title IV, we see about 96% of Title IV funds supporting payroll, and the remaining funds supported contracted professional development, contracted intensive outpatient counseling services as part of a well-rounded education or safe and healthy schools, as well as materials and supplies and professional development expenses. And then I'm going to move into the TACY grant, which is a grant to support students experiencing homelessness. We identified about 770 students through the McKinney-Vento Act experiencing homelessness this past year. And we are in year 2 of a 3-year grant cycle this upcoming year. So we are anticipating we will have about $87,000 available to us this upcoming year, and plan to spend about $90,000 on payroll to support our McKinney-Vento case managers and supplemental duty pay. The remaining to support program materials, conference registration and training, and indirect cost. Do you have any questions?
What was the homeless number, and how is that up from last year or previous year?
It has actually dropped a little bit from last year. Last year, I believe it was just over 850. I don't have the exact number, but it's dropped a little bit.
All right. Any other questions on the grant framework?
All right. Thank you.
Ms. Baker. 11.05, end of year safety and security report. Mr. Phillips.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, I have to point out that I get to follow not only Holly but Marie. And my PowerPoints do not look like their PowerPoints, but I will give you guys some good information, hopefully. So just going through, these are the things that we're going to look at: random intruder audits, emergency management, reunification, how that went this year. I'm going to talk a little bit about Raptor Student Safe. We'll go into some stats from the threat assessment and our crisis team, and then I will go through some of our safety and security project updates. So for our random intruder audits, we had 31 audits this year. 10 of those needed corrective actions. When you see the last 2 here, that's what I'm going to be presenting to you in a few minutes, because they're not finalized until I actually present them to the board. But those 2 are part of the 10. Out of those 10, 8 of those were, again, mechanical door failures, and that's just something we're always going to deal with. What I do like and what I have seen is that as we have gained more elementary ESROs, the SROs on elementary campuses, they are being able to check more often than the principal and the assistant principals, so we're finding those doors more often. So I really do expect those numbers to get better next year because we're adding in our ESRO numbers. We did have a mechanical failure on a door where an access code at Bedford Junior High, and I think I'd let you guys know that I have appealed that, so it could go down, that we only have 9 findings this year once the appeal is back. And then we had one, which will be discussed in the second one, that was, we only had 1 human error this year that actually had to deal with a staff issue. So we looked pretty good. Obviously, we want no findings, and that's what we're pushing toward, but the last 3 years, we've gotten better each year. So for our emergency management reunification, just briefly going to go over the 2 big reunifications that we had this year. First week of school, second week of school, we had the gas line leak, which was a serious issue because we had a 4-inch gas main pipeline in front of the school leaking, and we had to make quick decisions, but we were able to reunify over 800 people, including students and staff, safely over to Harwood Junior High. That went really smoothly. In every reunification, we are going to have things that we're going to change and adjust to next time, but the main thing is all of our students went home safely. And then the same with the Keys DAP Central Junior High. We had a false bomb threat that came in via email that looked very specific ahead of time, but it turned out that that actually went out to numerous campuses across the state. But we did act on it. Euless PD made the decision that we were going to evacuate and reunify. So in that situation, we had over 1,200 students and several hundred staff that we came over here to Pat May. And again, because I was on scene there, and we talked about this in closed session, I think, 2 times ago, but the fact that other staff was able to move straight in and perform a reunification, our staff did an incredible job. So we were able to really do some good after action with that event. And again, there will be things we've changed. There's additional resources that we've already added within a week or 2. One thing we realized is we did not have radios for our staff during reunification, so I quickly was able to secure those, and just a lot of little things that we were able to adjust on. But again, every single one of those students went home safely, and that's always the goal of reunification. For our Raptor Students Safe, I told you guys at the beginning of the year we added this factor, this program to our Raptor suite. This has been an incredible advantage for the crisis and threat team. This gives all of our staff across the district the ability to put in a student concern. So normally student concerns would maybe come from a counselor, but usually come from the AP or the principal. But if a teacher sees something in a classroom now, they can put it directly in here, and we're able to look at and build the information on the kids of all of a sudden student A looks like they don't look the same like they did 6 weeks ago. There's hygiene issues, there's behavior issues that are going on. So we're able to proactively go talk to our students every time one of these comes in. So you're going to see in a minute our stats, like we had over 1,900 submissions this year and those are from our staff across. So our crisis team and threat team looks at every single one of those. All 7 of our members get every single student alert that comes in. First one that gets at it is the one who takes care of it. But that has kept us very busy, and that's thankful that we were able to add another threat specialist that we'll talk about in a minute. But the overall evaluation of the threat referrals, the crisis screeners, the assessments, the staff training, those are all things that we met at the end of the year, and we're able to say we're getting more information now on our students than we ever have. And you guys have heard me talk several times about interrupting the pathway to violence. This is part of the way we do that. When we see kids making a turn off the normal path of where they should be, we're being able to intervene at a much earlier pace.
I have a question on that. Do you communicate that when a teacher sits down and puts that in to the system? I'm assuming through the computer.
Yes.
Some kind of program. And does that information also go to campus counselors and administrative staff?
Yes. So every campus, when a teacher submits something, we let the campus administrators and the counselors know that this request has come in or concern has come in, and then they follow back up with us after it's been taken care of on campus. If we see something where we know or we feel this is something where the crisis team or the threat team needs to come look at, then we head that way, and we just let them know we're heading that way. Any other questions on that? So here are our threat assessment and crisis team numbers. So again, the total number of threats investigated this year, and we are including anything that comes in. So last year we had a little over 500. I think we had 560 threats that came in. We're including all of the concerns this year. That doesn't mean threats have gone up. When you're looking at actual threats, out of the 1,900, we probably investigated what we would consider 50 to 55 serious situations where we need to go out and interview this student or the family immediately. The 731 crisis referrals and 7 parent referrals, those are just, that's all crisis team, and that is referrals that come in from campuses and go to the crisis team. That is separate than the 1,903 student safe concerns. So crisis team is very busy. We'll tell you that they do an incredible amount of work, but to get that many, that's gone up every year that I've been here. So for 3 years in a row, I've seen crisis referrals go up. I've seen parent referrals go up, but we have a great team, and we should be very proud of them. We did 36 complete threat assessments this year. So what does that mean? That means a threat came from a campus, and it was significant enough that the full team had to meet. So when the full crisis or the full threat team meets, there's 13 to 15 of us. And we come in, we evaluate the situation, we interview the students, we interview the parents, and then a complete threat assessment is voted on, and whether that is high, low, critical, imminent, or none. So out of those 36, I think we passed on, let you guys know before, that at the end of each school year, we pass on our information to the local police departments. So 2 weeks ago, we had our final meeting, and we said these are the kids who still have active threat assessments, and they will monitor them over the summer. So the mental health officers from each of our local departments stop by and check on those kids during the summer. If any of those kids were happen to get in trouble over the summer, we immediately get notified. So again, that partnership is huge for us. At the beginning of the school year next year, they'll hand those cases back over to us, and we will continue to monitor them. One of the other things that is really cool is that since the state passed that your threat assessment, if you have a completed threat assessment, it passes from school district to school district now. It also can pass on to college. So we've had requests from college, and it says, we see in the T records that there was a threat assessment done. So we're able to let them know, talk with the police departments, talk with the counseling departments, and let them know what kind of work was done before. And then we're able to add the addition of a threat specialist position that Ms. Valentut is taking over. So very excited to have another addition to the team. I'm also interviewing for secretaries the next couple of days, so that will be a huge bonus to our department, because maybe my slides will look better next year. I don't know. I'll have some help. So these are the project updates, and I always go back to my first presentation to you guys in October of 2022 of the things that we asked for and where are we on those. So all of our elementary fencing has been completed, except for the campuses that are under construction. But the good news is they all have construction fences around them now, so they're actually harder to get into. The emergency responder radio communication system, that is, if you will remember, when we look at the 12 Texas state safety standards, that was the last one that we hadn't finished. So that project, we're not sure that it is actually done. I'm waiting to hear approval of that. They were working on the last 2 schools last week. So that radio system and communication program is different than our school radios. This is specifically for first responders, and it is required by the state. And so we had every campus assessed, and 16 of our campuses needed to have some enhancements. The additional threat specialist position, our access control project. So what I asked of the schools last year is, and we've added a little bit every year to every campus. We're at the point now where most schools only have 3 or 4 doors outside of their exterior that don't have access control. We're moving hard to go through every single exterior door should be key card access. So no more keys, which was a great thing for not having teachers have to worry about can they find their keys to get back into especially elementary campuses in recess. So that'll be happening this summer. Our secondary radio repeaters, I believe that's going to be repeated or presented to you later, but we are asking for additional repeaters at our secondary campuses because they're so large that those digital radios that we got them that are very nice sometimes don't communicate without the proper repeaters. And then starting in the fall, we will have secondary student IDs across all campuses. We've been having meetings, myself, Miss Rhodes, Miss Hopkins, and Transportation has been helping Justin Slemons because we're going to use the Smart Pass badges. And we're on the verge of probably this week, all of that will be ordered. So we've created our processes and procedures and have everything, we will have everything in place. And then the last one is the elementary SRO program. Happy to say we are ahead of schedule. We have 10 in place right now. We have, I believe, 6 that are waiting to be interviewed. I'm hoping that when we start school this next year, and I told you guys before, it's just an open application right now. So every month, last month we had 2 that they interviewed. This month we have 6. Hopefully we'll interview more in July and August, and we'll have them in place. But the words that I've heard from our campus administrators, our elementary administrators, are how thankful they are that you guys, that the board supported this and went through. They love having their SROs on campus. And so even though they're not there at every campus all day long right now, every campus is being touched every day. And that makes a huge difference. So I think that is it. Any questions?
Dan, not to put you on the spot, and it doesn't have to be done right
It's
now.
okay.
But first off, this is amazing, and your staff is doing an amazing job. And I know every one of those 1,900 have a story. It'd be nice to know a story. Hey,
Sure.
just to hear and for talking points. Hey, this kid reached out, this person reported, this is what happened.
Yeah. Well, I can give you a story right now that we had one student that my very first year here was in a serious, critical, imminent situation. So he was labeled the highest threat rating that you could get. He walked the stage this year. So he was monitored all 3 years. We had a safety plan with the campus. My team did regular interventions and checkups with him. It was a little bumpy at times, but he graduated, and we were very, very excited to see that. But thank you for asking. Okay.
All right, any other questions on the safety and security report? All right, district-wide intruder detection audit report findings.
I'm going to mess up Ms. Dye here. Okay, so this is just, again, there are final 2 detection reports for the end of the year. We had 31 this year. 10 of those we had corrective actions on. These are the last 2. On April 10th, Harrison Lane Elementary received an audit, and on May 12th, Oakwood Terrace received an audit. District Safety Officer was provided complete report findings from the Texas School Safety Center. Harrison Lane had a corrective action finding for one exterior door that was propped open by maintenance or cafeteria staff. Again, this is the first time we've had this year. Where it was a physical fail on our part, that a door had been propped open when things were being unloaded and loaded, and it didn't get put back. So for me, that's just going and retraining and pushing that through the staff, saying this is important. Because when the auditors are sitting there, it's very easy when they drive up and they see, oh, people are going in and out. Well, let me see if they shut it. Well, this time they didn't. So we did get a ding on that. Oakwood Terrace had a corrective action for a side exterior door. And again, this is, Oakwood Terrace is a new school. We don't typically have door failures over there, but sometimes the doors don't get pushed all the way. So when the auditor is coming up and pulling on doors, one of the exterior doors popped open and the auditor was able to gain access. I just had maintenance come out that day and tighten it up, making sure that when you push it should shut all the way. But overall, again, our campuses did really well this year. So that is that. Any questions on the report? Okay. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you, Dan. Item 11.07, Chat GPT EDU report. Dr. Hopkins.
Good evening. I am excited to have the opportunity to speak with you tonight about a partnership for HEB ISD and ChatGPT EDU. There are 3 priorities from our strategic plan that we can look at whenever we're talking about the integration of ChatGPT EDU into our district. The first priority listed is student success, but what I want you to notice following it is employee success And then we also talk about effectiveness and efficiency. Now, these are listed in this order just because student success becomes first on our priority list, but we know that based on our work, from employee success and effectiveness and efficiency is where we glean our student success, and that's through our robust teaching and learning. So when we look at ChatGPT, we're going to look at it through the lens of making our employees successful through employee engagement and retention, and then also our effectiveness and efficiency. So why AI? Why now? Many of you have experienced some form of AI, right? You have AI on your phones. It's coming into your cars now. We have AI everywhere. So when we start looking at why would we even entertain the thought of bringing AI into our schools? And the truth of the matter is it's here. It's already integrated into a lot of our systems and structures. So what we want to look at is the rise of generative AI in education and how it presents a powerful opportunity to enhance learning, productivity, and equity. So we know that we have resources that our students use that already have AI embedded in them. These resources are contingent on parent permission, and many of them we don't have available to our students at this time, but it is becoming integrated into most of the technologies that we have in our district. And HEB ISD is committed, we are committed to innovation, access, and readiness through our CI practices. All night we've talked about how we use CI to help us become better at our practice, and so that is something that we're committed to whenever we look at ChatGPT EDU and refining our practice for our teachers and our staff members. So why now in HEB? We've talked about AI, we know it's here, so why here in our district? We started speaking with ChatGPT EDU earlier this year, and we asked the question, can you tell us how many of our teachers have a ChatGPT account tied to their HEB ISD email address? And the answer was 1,200 staff members have a ChatGPT EDU account. So that's amazing, right? They are embracing AI, our teachers are embracing technology, but at the same time, we had concerns. We have data that's being used in a system that we don't control. We have data that's being shared, or maybe not data, but just conversations that are happening with AI that we aren't able to monitor or regulate. So those were concerning to us as a technology department, very concerning to our cybersecurity engineer. And so we started thinking, how can we create a system to help us control some of what our teachers are already doing, but at the same time offer support for a tool that we see that they are using and embracing. So the solution is ChatGPT EDU. Now, ChatGPT has been around. It's about 2 years old, or coming up on its second birthday, and they have ventured into an EDU model. So what does this mean? It means that they have created an entire GPT system that supports ISDs in higher education. So it has built-in safety features for K-12, it's FERPA compliant, it doesn't train on our data, and it meets all of those standards that we need for K-12 and higher ed data protection. By partnering with ChatGPT EDU, it also provides us access to the latest GPT models. So right now it's like, okay, that's great, but our teachers are learning how to use the current GPT model. They're embracing this model, and then when a new one comes out, they're going to want to use the new one because it's going to be even more refined and it's going to be even more efficient and effective for our teachers. So through ChatGPT EDU and this partnership, we have access to the latest model so that our teachers will have refined access. Finally, ChatGPT EDU provides us administrative control. So when I talked on the last slide about some concerns, we want to make sure that we're monitoring our data. We want to make sure that we have control over the information that's being shared to AI. ChatGPT EDU provides us that opportunity. It enables us the opportunity to set policies, to manage accounts, and control access. We have the ability to create GPTs and then point those GPTs towards specific data within our domain that we want the GPT to use in order to provide information. And I'll talk about some of those examples here on the next slide. So when we talk about our teachers embracing ChatGPT, we know that they're using it. We also look at what are some of the struggles that our teachers have. What are some of the things that if we can provide tools for support, it's going to help them be better in their craft. We are fortunate in HEB-ISD that we have a fantastic C&I department, right? Our curriculum and instruction is above and beyond. We also have a very robust managed curriculum, and we are fortunate to have that. But sometimes, as a teacher who is new to the district, it can be overwhelming to move through our curriculum, to understand our curriculum, and to know what the appropriate enrichment and extensions activities are at the time. So by partnering with GPT, we will have the opportunity to create a lesson planning assistant. Now, okay, great, this is what our teachers are already doing, right? They're going to ChatGPT and asking, Chat, provide me with an enrichment or extension activity on TEAC 3.24 or something along those lines. Our ability now would be able to point that GPT to our HEB-ISD curriculum, to the TEACs, and it would enable us the opportunity to create a rigor test so that we can ensure that we are still getting the rigor. We just talked about everything that we're doing to make sure that our rigor in our teaching is matching the rigor of our assessments. This would provide us a tool to ensure rigor and alignment. Is what we think we're teaching really in line with our curriculum and with our TEACs? And it would provide our teachers an easy way to know and check themselves, is what I think I'm doing really in alignment with everything, all the resources that I have? In addition, we know that we value data, and we look at data to help drive decision-making in our classroom. So we have key data points, just like Dr. Norgard and Liz just presented. We have key data points that we look at all the time, but our teachers are continually using data in their classroom. And as we work through the CI process in our classrooms, we want our teachers to easily be able to analyze data and determine how they can create the best interventions for their classroom. So by creating some tools and support for data analysis, not only can we provide our teachers with a way to quickly and easily analyze data, but we can also make sure that it aligns with the key factors that we are looking at as a district. Also, just like I already alluded to, we can create opportunities for differentiation and support. Sometimes it gets hard as a teacher to really begin to differentiate in our classroom. Our teachers are masterful teachers, and they are very gifted, but to have a tool to help create differentiation for different activities would be beneficial for our teachers. In addition to our classroom, we look at district support. One GPT that we've already created and have been using is a translation tool. We are a diverse district. We have a lot of languages within our district, and sometimes we don't have translators for all the languages that we need to translate information into. So Ms. Becker has already been using this program. We've been using it in our PEAMS department to help with registration, but the ability to translate for guardians and community members is beneficial for our district. Right now it's limited because when you use a free GPT account, just like many of our teachers are doing, you only get so many queries per day. This would provide unlimited. So when you start communicating with a parent or a community member, or you start translating documents, you have the ability for task completion, and you're not limited to just a small number. And then finally, IEP and 504 drafting assistant. Now, our teachers and our SPED staff are the authority with creating our IEPs and our 504s and our PLAFs, but the insurance of compliance and language across all areas is a tool that we can use just to help ensure compliance for our legal system, or our special education tools. So earlier this year, we developed an AI task force. The AI task force was made up of members of the technology team and curriculum and instruction. And we initially started out by looking at how are we going to manage AI in our district. It wasn't about the innovation. It wasn't about embracing the technology. It was, how are we going to be prepared? This is coming. Our students are starting to use it. How can we be prepared for this? So that discussion originally started with academic integrity policies, and then it grew. And out of that, we developed our philosophy. And in HEB ISD, we believe in embracing AI as a tool for enhancing learning experiences in our classroom. And we believe in the full integration of AI in our classrooms in ways that are age-appropriate, equitable, and meaningful for all learners. And we believe that AI is a tool that enhances learning, supports creativity, and prepares students for the evolving demands of college, career, and civic life. But with that said, we also believe in the age-appropriate use, right? So right now, like I already said, there is AI. It is out there. It is integrated. But we also know that ChatGPT doesn't feel like they're ready for student use. Their policy states 18 and above. So while we're looking at bringing a tool into our district, this is very much a teacher-staff focused tool at this time. It will allow us to begin exploring what does it look like to integrate AI in classrooms? How do we develop a learning continuum so that we know what we feel like appropriate AI usage is by grade level? And in the future, we would hope to be able to develop some things such as a writing coach GPT. Our ELA department will share, especially for our EB students, they start writing, and if the teacher isn't there to intervene quickly enough, a student might have already written 3 to 5 paragraphs, which sometimes is really difficult, and they've done it incorrectly. And so having some tools in there to help reason through a writing process would be beneficial for our students. Same with math problem solving, being able to get a little bit of help with your homework whenever you get stuck. And then, of course, career exploration. And I'm already trying to think for my own children, how can I help them begin to explore careers that I don't even know are out there because they weren't there when I was headed to college. So those are some examples of how we could use it for student use in the future. So an implementation timeline, what we would be looking at is in June, which is this month, we would get access to GPT EDU for staff. And then we provide a half-day training in person using a trainer of trainer models. So we'd identify key leaders and technology thought partners within the district who could help carry out the vision of ChatGPT and learning just really how to use it and how to use it efficiently and effectively. Some of those GPT models that I talked to you about will be developed by the curriculum and the technology department, but we also need some plans for how do we integrate this just for a classroom teacher who wants to use it in their practice. So as I said, summer we would work on the development of the curriculum GPA, our AI learning continuum, which again is where it tells us what is an age-appropriate AI activity based on grade level, and then guidelines and best practices across the district. In the fall, we would start training the staff on how to use ChatGPT EDU. We know we already have early adopters, so this would vary in the way that it is rolled out based on the needs of the staff members. And then we would also offer virtual and on-demand ChatGPT EDU trainings for staff. And then OpenAI also has an EDU Academy and an EDU hub through their websites that our staff could also access. Long-term, our long-term vision would be that we would eventually cultivate AI fluent graduates. We want our students to be prepared to be in this post-secondary world, and part of that is equipping them with the tools of today for the jobs of tomorrow. It would also help us position HEB ISD as a regional leader in education innovation, and it would align with future workforce demands in Texas and beyond. So when we look at the pricing structure, the ChatGPT Enterprise Platform, and this was shared with you previously, for 2,200 staff members. And then in addition, we would have pooled credits. Now those pooled credits are to be given to select individuals who would help us further the work of ChatGPT EDU. So not every staff member would be in the pooled credit bucket, I guess, for lack of a better word. So we might see that Dr. Johnson has a number of credits to move forward some of our CI work and our strategic planning. And then the technology team, the curriculum team, special education would have another set of pooled credits to use with some of the work that they are doing. So overall, I think when we circle back to the very first question that we asked, which is why AI and why now, I think there are 3 takeaways. One of them is it gives us the opportunity to own and manage our own data, which is very important for our cybersecurity. Number 2 is it's a way that we can support our teachers by creating more effective and efficient operations that help them and hopefully would help with employee retention. And then finally, it's an opportunity to utilize with students when the time is right, which maybe isn't now. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Dr. Hopkins. I know you and your team have been working on this for quite a while now, so I was really excited to see this presentation. I had a question. You already answered it, so this is more of a comment. I think this is a great step forward. I think it fits with what's already happening in our district and around the world. And yeah, my biggest concern was about safety and security, data privacy, that sort of thing. And I think you guys knocked it out of the park.
Thank you.
So, Lindsay, I just got one question. So, do the 1,200 teachers, administrators that already had it connected to their HEB email, does that automatically convert over?
Yes, so that was one of the questions that I have already asked our implementation specialist, and that is part of our plan, is to roll those models over. He's still working on a final answer, but that's definitely our hope, because I know within our technology workspace, just Dr. Johnson and I alone have quite a bit of work that will be rolled over.
So there's a huge possibility that, and then for the other 1,000 that may be using their own, would be encouraged to go this direction?
Definitely, we will want, and they're going to have more bells and whistles unless they're paying for their own account. But if they're using a free account, this ChatGPT EDU account will provide them the opportunity to make their own custom GPTs. So it's to their advantage to use our account.
So when you say the quantity is 2,200, is that people?
That is people.
Okay, so how are you going to choose those 2,000?
So we actually already started, we identified the workforce that uses computers primarily, so we did not, at this time, calculate in for our maintenance and grounds crew, our bus drivers. We do have members of the transportation department, but not all members of the transportation department. So we took information from our key leaders. I reached out to department heads and just said, hey, would you think that these individuals would need ChatGPT accounts? And then that's where we started. And this is actually about 200 extra licenses in there, so that in case there is someone that we didn't account for or we are projecting for future growth or staff, we have that opportunity.
So what kind of support do you get in terms of building the agents for these different things that you have in mind? First of all, I guess, what's kind of support are they going to get us to build it initially, and then as new versions come out, does that require rebuilding each one, and will they be there to help us with that, to convert or upgrade, or however it's, I don't know how you call it in AI, so.
Yes. So there's a couple of beautiful things about where we have positioned ourselves within this process. And one is that we will be the first school district in the southern United States, which helps us be a great partner to OpenAI. They will provide support in teaching for how to build the GPTs. They will not build them out for us, but they will offer a support structure available to us. So as we're starting to build, obviously, we will train our technology department, members of the curriculum department, et cetera, on base level training. And then as we become more robust, Dr. Johnson and I already have been in communication with, okay, so how do we integrate our Google Drive? We want to create a GPT that's going to point through a specific folder, and then they start walking us through the process, and we go back and forth. So it is a learning a learning opportunity for us where we will be learning how to build them. And then as we continue on, they'll provide the support for us.
What other questions do we have?
My question was going to be what other districts are utilizing this or participating, but you just answered that. That's amazing.
So a couple of things to know too is we will be, one of few school districts. Right now, in California, it is San Bernardino Public Schools. Chicago Public Schools has openly adopted AI, but they are not a partner with ChatGPT EDU. And then New York City Public Schools is a partner with ChatGPT EDU. So we have New York, California, and Texas. Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Hopkins.
Thank you.
All right, we're ready to start our long list of action items. We did not have any items pulled from the consent agenda, so item 12.02, consider approval of annual review approval of investment policy and strategy, qualified brokers, and sources of investment training.
Okay, I'm filling in for Dobie tonight, so you get to hear from me a few more times tonight. This first one is just to consider the approval of our investment strategy based on the Texas Public Funds Investment Act, and also to review our qualified brokers and our training for our investment officers.
All right. Are there any questions on this item? I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve the district's investment policies and strategies in alignment with legal and local policies, adopt a list of qualified brokers, and approve the independent sources of investment training as presented.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, for the board to approve the district's investment policies and strategies in alignment with legal and local policies, adopt the list of qualified brokers, and approve the independent sources of investment training as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.03, approval of financial statements, month of April 2025.
Okay, on our financial statements that ended in April, we'll start with the general fund. So at the end of April, we were sitting on $217 million in fund balance. This is about where on our expenditures, we're at about 62%, which is about where we should be around this time. We should be around 66%, so a little bit under on that. But the fund is performing exactly where we're expecting. Payroll's up to 85.9% at this point. Utilities are sitting around 2.3%. And then other expenditures, including our property insurance, are sitting around 2.2%. Child nutrition, right now through April, is sitting with about $8.2 million in fund balance. This is $1.3 million revenue over expenditures. Running right where it should be around this time of the year, about 58% of their total expenditures being made at this point. Our debt service fund right now is sitting at $65 million. This is about $41 million revenue over expenditures. We've made the first payment in February. The second payment of the year will come in August. It's $43 million, so we've almost raised enough for that payment this year. We do have enough in fund balance to cover it. We still have a few tax collections coming in June and July, so we will cover that one for the year. Tuition-based pre-K, right now they're sitting about $200,000 in profit for the year. They are entering the summer where they won't be getting any kind of tuition, but they still have to pay for the teachers for the rest of the summer, so that'll start coming down as the summer goes along. Special revenue funds, total expenditures are sitting at 47% of the budget right now. All of them are going exactly where they should be right now. Campus activity funds through April had raised $255,000 for the year. The funds are performing exactly as expected. On our bond fund right now, we have $549 million in fund balance right now. Expenditures are over revenue by $23 million. That's as expected at this point, as we did the first issue last year. We're expecting the second issue of those to be in mid-2026. And as we start seeing more bills coming in from the buildings, we'll start seeing this fund balance dropping. On our locally defined capital projects fund, as I explained in the presentation earlier, we got about $26 million left in fund balance right now. About 20 million of that's unclaimed as of right now. And then kind of a list of the projects that have been going on this year and there. Okay. Any kind of questions on the financials?
Any questions on financial statements? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the financial statements for April 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the financial statements for April 2025. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.04, consider approval of budget transfer and amendment request for consideration in June 2025.
Okay, budget transfers for this month. The transfers were just our standard ones for the end of the year as departments and campuses are getting themselves ready for the summer. We did have one amendment in here this month. It's for summer school. We're taking $150,000 from the extended day program and moving it over. That was from the profits from last year. And it's just being divided out for summer school expenses.
All right, any questions on the budget transfers? I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the budget transfer and amendment requests for June 2025 as submitted.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the budget transfer and amendment request for June 2025 as submitted. Please vote. That motion passes. 12.05, consider approval of selection of auditor for efficiency audit.
Okay. As of House Bill 3 in 2019, we are required before holding a voter approval tax rate election. The district is required. The first step is to select an auditor for the efficiency audit. And we're recommending tonight Weaver and Tidwell for this.
All right. Any questions on this recommendation? I'll accept a motion.
The board approved the selection of Weaver and Tidwell LLC to conduct an efficiency.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the selection of Weaver and Tidwell LLC to conduct an efficiency audit as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.06, consider approval of Tarrant County Tax Assessor Collector Agreement.
Okay, this one, this is a 3-year agreement with the county to do our tax assessing and collecting. They are increasing in this 3-year period from 98 cents per account to $1.07 per account.
Any questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the agreement for collection of tax with Tarrant County Tax Assessor Collector for the 2025-2027 tax year. The board gives signing authority to Dobie Williams, Deputy Superintendent of Business Operation, on the agreement for the collection of tax.
Second. I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the agreement for collection of taxes with the Tarrant County Tax Assessor Collector for the 2025-2027 tax years. The board gives signing authority to Dobie Williams, Deputy Superintendent of Business Operations, on the agreement for the collection of taxes. Please vote. And that motion passes. Stephen, we know this was on short notice, so thanks for stepping in. Great job. All right, 12.07, consider approval of supplemental digital literacy program renewal. Mr. Kerbo.
Dr. Harrington, Mr. Romero, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to present these items to you. This item is the renewal of our supplemental digital literacy program from reading programs K through 2 from Amplify.
Are there any questions on this renewal? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the renewal purchase of supplemental digital literacy program from Amplify as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the renewal purchase of the supplemental digital literacy program from Amplify as presented. That motion passes. 12.08, consider approval of Education Service Center Region 11, 2025 to 2026 contracts.
Region 11 provides a number of services to us under an interlocal agreement that we've executed with and had in place for a while now, and this is just approval to pay for those contracts.
Any questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the proposed Education Service Center Region 11 contracts as presented.
I have a motion and second for the board to approve the proposed Education Center Region 11 contracts as presented. Please vote. That motion passes. 12.09, consider approval of RFP 25-02 training consultants.
This is a replacement bid for a bid that expired in May 31st of this year. And this will allow us to utilize professional development consultants come in and do training for us to supplement our instructional staff and district staff on an as-needed basis.
Any questions? I'll accept the motion.
The board approve the list of vendors.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the list of vendors for RFP 25-02 training consultants as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.11, consider approval of Cisco phone purchase.
You missed.
Oh, sorry. 12.10. Consider approval renewal of measures of academic progress and growth licenses.
This is another renewal of an annual purchase that we use for our K through 6 grades for various items or various subject matter that we are identified in the agenda item: reading, math, language usage, and science.
All right. Any questions on this purchase? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the purchase of MAP growth licenses for our elementary campuses, grades K through 6 math and grades 3 through 6 reading.
I have a motion and second for the board to approve the purchase of MAP growth licenses for our elementary campuses, grades K through 6 math and grades 3 through 6 reading. Please vote. And that motion passes. Now we're ready to hear about Cisco phones purchase.
All right. We're replacing 1,615 phones that are no longer compatible and need to be upgraded to work with our voice over IP system. These are not landlines. That question came up earlier. These are just used with our voice or telephone network to be able to call as needed.
Any questions on this purchase? I'll accept the motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the purchase of the Cisco phones from NetSync Network Solutions, Inc. as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. Item 12.12, consider approval of construction materials testing for elementary replacement campuses.
As with the LD Bell and Trinity projects, we've brought to you materials testing agreements for those projects. This will be for Hurst-Euless, Midway Park, and Wilshire Elementary to do the same type of testing.
Any questions on the testing? I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve unit fee contracts with CMJ Engineering for construction material testing services for Hurst Hills, Midway Park, and Wilshire Elementary Schools, replacement campuses as presented.
I have a motion and second for the board to approve the unit fee contract with CMJ Engineering Incorporated for construction materials testing services for Hurst Hills Elementary School, Midway Park Elementary School, and Wilshire Elementary School replacement campuses as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.13, consider approval of energy management and device connections for rooftop units at Hurst Junior High School.
Earlier this year, you approved the addition of $1 million worth of rooftop units on an as-needed basis. We've identified some at Hurst Junior High, and this will allow us to put energy management controls in there so we can manage those remotely and monitor their energy usage.
Any questions? I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the proposal from JMS Integrated Building Solutions as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the proposal from JMS Integrated Building Solutions as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.14, consider approval of extension of RFP 23-03, electronic visitor management systems.
Back in April of 2023, the board approved this purchase originally so that we can make the purchase of electronic visitor management system from Raptor Technologies that helps us in our managing visitors that come to the building, whether they're there just for a visit, they're there for as a volunteer, or for whatever reason. It was extended the following year, and in addition to that, we added a couple of other items: the panic button alert system, as well as the emergency management system, all of those under the Raptor suite of modules or systems that help manage and control visitors to the campus. This is the mechanism that we need to have in place in order for us to make a purchase that will be on the next item. These items were not available through a cooperative, but this mechanism allowed us to be able to purchase additional items that they have to offer, as long as they're related to the initial purchase. So we ask that you extend this item so that we can make the following purchase.
So by extension, you mean that this is a renewal? Like
Correct.
The second year of the...
This is the third year of the agreement, but the second extension.
All right, but it's still coming out of locally defined capital project funds?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any questions? I'll accept a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and second that the board approve the second extension of RFP 23-03 for emergency visitor management system and emergency management full suite from Raptor Technologies as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.15, consider approval of expanded visitor and emergency management system.
Okay, so this purchase bundles everything that we've talked about earlier, which was the original electronic visitor management system, the panic button alert, and the emergency management system. And adds to it a number of other items there that you see written up in the agenda item and what you've been presented in the Friday update. So this will put together everything we needed from Raptor to provide a safe and secure campus and controls to visitors on site. There will be an implementation charge of $129,435, which is a one-time purchase, and then annual purchases or annual costs will be $314,000. And again, that is everything that we have from Raptor rolled into one.
So going forward, we're going to be expecting what you just said, 314?
Yes, ma'am.
As our yearly maintenance?
Correct.
All right. Any other questions on the Raptor system? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the expansion of the Visitor and Emergency Management System from Raptor Technologies, Inc. as presented.
I have a motion second for the board to approve the expansion of the visitor and emergency management system from Raptor Technologies, Inc. as presented. Please vote. That motion passes. 12.16, consider approval of purchase of repeater towers for secondary campuses.
As Mr. Phillips alluded to in his presentation earlier, these repeater towers are needed to provide better communication among all campuses in areas that had dead communication spots, and this will remedy that and allow for communication with the staff's two-way radios. This is not for emergency responders. Again, that's another project, but this is just for the two-way radios.
Is there an expected maintenance cost on these?
No, ma'am.
It's a one-time thing.
It's a one-time thing. Mm-hmm.
What is the lifespan of these?
The last one, the existing ones we've had have been there for probably 10 years. So I can't tell you exactly how long these will last, but as long as they're compatible with current technology, they should be suitable. We can get more information for you on that and provide that in update.
We'll just move those from the old buildings to the
Yes, ma'am. For Bell, there won't be an issue because that tower is going to be placed somewhere where it won't need to be moved. For Trinity, these will be able to be moved to a new facility once it's in place.
All right. Any other questions on the towers? I'll accept the motion.
the board approve the purchase of two-way radio repeater towers for all secondary campuses from Arrowwave Technologies as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the purchase of two-way radio repeater towers for all secondary campuses from Arrowwave Technologies as presented. Please vote. That motion passes. 12.17, consider approval of Lakewood Elementary Fire System replacement.
The system at Lakewood is out of date and can't be replaced or repaired. So this is to replace that entire unit. It's a long lead item, so there's not going to be replaced until Thanksgiving, but they need to order those items now so they'll have everything in place to be able to make that replacement.
All right. Are there any questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the proposal for Texas Fire and Cabling Services, Inc. for the fire alarm system replacement at Lakewood Elementary School as presented.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the proposal from Texas Fire and Cabling Services, Inc. for the fire alarm system replacement at Lakewood Elementary School as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.18, consider approval of RFP 25-08, custodial supplies and equipment.
This is also a replacement bid for a bid that expired on May 31st of 2025. So this will allow us to buy custodial supplies and equipment for on an as-needed basis from the vendors that are listed.
All right. Any questions on this RFP? I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the list of vendors for RFP 2508, custodial supplies and equipment, as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the list of vendors for RFP 25-08, custodial supplies and equipment, as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.19, consider approval of RFP 25-10, special education contracted therapy services.
And this is also a replacement bid for a bid that expired or is expiring this month. This will provide a list of vendors or service providers needed to support special ed and for all types of occupational or therapy services. And you see a little spending history there to give you an idea of how these are used. Again, these are based on as-needed services, and depending on if we have staff available to provide these services or if we no longer have staff and need some support.
Any questions on this RFP?
Gary, why are those numbers going down?
Just the services may not be needed. Ms. Reed could probably tell you better than I can as to, we use those, like I say, as we need to, and she might be able to provide a little more insight.
So the biggest reason is that you have given us more staff so that we don't have, when we pay contract companies, we pay the contract company and not the individual. So currently, this past year, we have had a physical therapist who's worked for us for many years, who's a vendor, and that's about it. In the past, we've had an audiologist and a music therapist, and now we have a full-time music therapist for that position. So,
Good answer. I just want to make sure we're taking care of you.
and we are. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the list of vendors for RFP 2510 for special education contracted therapy services as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the list of vendors for RFP 25-10 for special education contracted therapy services as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.20, consider approval to delegate authority to the board president to enter into contract discussions as disclosed in closed session.
Trustee, I'm sorry. Yeah, you discussed a piece of property that was available and possibly could meet a need for relief in conjunction with our bond program, and this action would authorize Mr. Romero to act on behalf of the delegate or the board based on discussions or information disclosed in closed session.
All right, I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the delegation of authority to the board president to act on behalf of the board for the purchase of property or properties discussed in the closed session.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the delegation of authority to the board president to act on behalf of the board for purchase of properties or property or properties discussed in closed session. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.21, consider approval of Chat GPT EDU Enterprise Application Programming Interface API purchase. Dr. Hopkins?
Do you have any additional questions?
Any other questions about the Chat GPT EDU? All right.
It will be an every year cost. We will have the opportunity to negotiate our terms each year, but it will be an annual cost.
I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approves the purchase of OpenAI ChatGPT EDU for the recommended vendor as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the purchase of OpenAI ChatGPT EDU from the recommended vendor as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 12.22, consider approval of Renaissance School City purchase.
So this was addressed in the Friday update as we look at supporting the conversation that Dr. Norgard had with you earlier tonight of moving from Eduphoria Aware for our assessment platform within district to Renaissance School City.
All right. Any questions on this purchase? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the purchase of School City from Renaissance as presented.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the purchase of School City from Renaissance as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Hopkins. We're ready for open forum number 2. Okay, Ms. Alicia Rodriguez. And you'll have 3 minutes, and the time will come up on the screen. So you'll be able to see
Okay.
it.
Well, it's on my phone too. I know. 3 minutes. Am I good to start? Okay. So my name is Alicia Rodriguez. I am a concerned parent of your district. I have an 8-year-old son who has been diagnosed with ADHD, obstinate defiant disorder, major depressive disorder, and generalized anxiety. So he's got quite a bit of challenges. He is a special education student. His rights have been violated on numerous occasions. So I am not just here for my son, I am also here for the other special education students that fall within your district. These students, number one, from personal experience, my child has been a discipline problem. He has behavioral issues. He's academically very smart and he's above his grade level, but behaviorally, like a lot of these kids, he suffers. He's behind, he's emotionally immature. The combination of his conditions is a little ticking time bomb. So I understand that, but again, my son does qualify for special education. How did he get qualified? Did anybody at that school help me? Did anybody tell me that my son had rights? Did anybody educate me on a single thing? No. Their response was punitive. We want to send him to alternative school. We want to kick him out. We want to expel him. We want to send him to detention. That is their response. You're not going to tell me as an educator, and these are not brand new teachers that are teaching him, you don't recognize an ADHD kid when you see one. I'm sorry, but I find that hard to believe, especially when I've had people come and tell me, do you know that your son is such and such? I'm like, no, but thank you. So it was actually my son's psychiatrist, because I am an advocate for my son, and so I took it upon myself to go to Cook's Children and get his diagnosis. I have a psychiatrist on board. We have counselors. They are the ones that had to come and tell me, why is your son not on a 504? Why is your son not on an IEP plan? My response to the school is, why are you not telling me this? Why are you hiding this from me? You know, that's a problem. I am not the only parent with this. I work in a law firm with education attorneys and other attorneys. I have other parents coming to me asking for me to help them. I am not an attorney. I don't propose to be one. The teachers complaining they don't have the training to teach my son. I don't have what it takes. I'm not used to dealing with a student with your son's special needs. I understand that, you know, but as a district, we are falling short. These kids are crying out for help. Not a single one of them asked to be born with the conditions they were given. Mr. Campos, maybe you are the one that is going to help me, because you seemed concerned about the funding for special education. So I need one of you to stand up and do the right thing and to put special education on your agenda. So if one of you is willing to do that, I will partner with you and I will fight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 14.01, opportunity for board members to request items be placed on future board agendas. Does anybody have anything this evening? All right, 14.02, consider approval of designee for the board delegate to the Education Foundation. So on this item, Ms. Don Jordan Wells was our delegate this previous year. I know Dr. Began has joined the board, and he's already on the Education Foundation, and he's expressed interest in staying in that role. But this is a board decision, so if anybody else is interested in that position, then we're open for discussion. What's that?
I don't think we need to vote.
All right. So if there's no further discussion, I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve to designate Dr. John Began to serve as the delegate to Education Foundation.
Second.
I have a motion second for the board to approve to designate Dr. John Began to serve as the delegate to the Education Foundation. Please vote. And that motion passes. We do not need a second closed session, correct? All right, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.